Welcome, everyone, to the L7C podcast NBA edition. We are back talking some hoops with Sean. We have our basketball aficionado, Mr. Evan Debo. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing good, Martin. Looking forward to talking some hoops, and we're about a quarter way of the NBA season, and a lot has happened.
That is true. And before we do talk some hoops, there is some congratulations towards our NBA aficionado. He'll be starting a new job. And so we just want to, extend some congratulations to you once again, good sir.
Thanks, Martin. Appreciate it. Looking forward to next career move. Still sticking with, all things PR. Just blessed to have this opportunity, and exciting to see where 2022 leads. I appreciate you, man.
No problem. Just want to get that out before we forgot, because we have a lot of hoops to talk about. We're going to be giving you guys updates on what's going on in the East, West, records-wise. Obviously going to be previewing the Christmas games, because by the time you hear this podcast, it probably will be Christmas. Going to be talking about some new vaccination stuff with Toronto, Kyrie. And, of course, we got to end it talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers, because they are doing pretty well right now. But we're going to talk about the Western Conference. Evan, man, what's going on in the West? What are you seeing? What's going on?
From the West, man, it's really been a two-horse race. There's been some other good teams in there, but I mean, a really two-horse race out the gate with Golden State and with Phoenix. Just absolutely just burning the earth, scorched earth, whatever you want to call it. I got to see the Suns in person last month play the Cavs. Phoenix definitely should have lost that game. One of the worst officiated games I've ever seen. But, a little bit of luck helps with as long a streak as they had. Devin Booker's usage percentage is surprisingly down, but the man is so efficient, like you don't even notice it. I mean, if they gave him some more volume scoring opportunities, who knows what he could be averaging right now. I think JaVale McGee's been a really good addition for them. And then on the Golden State side of things, they look more like the Warriors of old, right? We're seeing, them start to round out. Curry is by far our first quarter MVP.
Yes.
Just as he's closing in on the all-time 3-point record, I think he's about 10 points away. Andrew Wiggins has been really, really solid. Jordan Poole has been phenomenal, averaging 18 a game. And then again, just solid contributions across the bench from Otto Porter to Damian Lee to Gary Payton. Gary Payton's been phenomenal off the bench. Juan Toscano Anderson again in short spells. I mean, they've got depth. They know their roles, and that's part of the reason why they're number one in the West and have the tiebreaker over the Suns right now. Beyond that, obviously looking down through the rest of the West, you've got the Memphis Grizzlies up there, and the Los Angeles Lakers as well. Not necessarily sitting a game above 500, not necessarily in a place you think they would normally be, or where we expect them to be. They've really kind of struggled at times and had some bad losses in there. And then after the Lakers, your playing teams and your 7-8 seeds from 7 to 10. All under 500. Mavericks at 12 and 13, Denver at 12 and 13, Minnesota and Sacramento in 9th and 10th, respectively, for 11 and 15. Trailblazers way down the list, losing tiebreaker. They're actually 11th at 11 and 15 as well. I don't want to skip over the Clippers and Jazz, who haven't mentioned. Utah's been the regular season juggernaut that they normally are. Martin, what stands out to you with some of these teams in the West? Are there any, again, I think Portland and kind of what we're looking at is, somewhat of a collapse. Or 1-11 on the road, 10-4 at home. And, Portland is one that, kind of shocks me out the gate. Los Angeles too, sitting at 14-13, 27 games into the Russ experiment. What stands out to you, Martin, so far?
I think you hit the two biggest one. Obviously, the one the media is talking about the most is the Lakers, because this was a lot of people's picks to come out of the West, barring injuries and health and COVID protocols, because, I mean, obviously they have number 23, and they got LeBron, they have Anthony Davis, and they have Russell Westbrook. But to me, when I watch them, I don't want, because this sounds so cliche, they do look old. Like they're not moving the way I would think they would move. It might, with LeBron, I get it. He preserves himself till it's playoff time and all of that. But I don't know, Evan, the way I've watched the Lakers play, I just feel like they're not quick to the ball. I feel like the defending's not good. I feel like Anthony Davis, I don't know what's happened to him this year, because I thought they were going to run the offense through Anthony Davis. But so far, this Westbrook experience, to me, I know it's all early, it's a quarter of the season, it has not been what I thought it would be. And with Portland, it's kind of crazy too, because this team with Dame, CJ just had the diagnosis with a collapsed lung, so I hope he's all right.
Really?
But I always expect Portland to be in the playoffs just because of Dame and what they've been able to do the past couple of years. I mean, they were in the Western Conference Finals 2-3 years ago, and they've always played their way into the playoffs. They've been a tough out for people. So seeing them at 11th at 11 and 15, and then everyone saying Dame wants out, then Dame refused that, saying he doesn't want out. These people are just talking. So those are the two biggest things for me. And I guess I will throw them a bone, a positive one. The Clippers being the 5th seed at 14 and 13, for people who remember, they do not have Kawhi Leonard. So them being above the Lakers too is something else. And also a little bit with Dallas, just because now there's reports saying how Luka himself said he came into the season out of shape. And I'm always a little bit high on Luka. Dallas, I thought they would be a little bit higher than the 7th seed. So those would be my 4. And then Denver, they're just holding on, waiting for Jamal Murray to come back. They did lose Michael Porter Jr., so those would be mine. How about you?
To a couple of the teams that you pointed out in the West there, I mean, with the Lakers, again, we go back to, I honestly, I don't know that, I mean, I'm looking at Russ's stats right now, 19 and a half a game, 7.7 boards, 8.6 assists in 36 minutes, turn the ball over. I mean, he leads the team in turnovers. He also handles the ball the most at 4.6 a game. He's got to cut down on that. But I mean, his shooting numbers aren't atrocious. He's 45% from the field, 32% from three. I mean, obviously the free throw shooting sub 70, but I think it's more than that. I don't know if it's a scheming thing or what. There were some people pointing out in the last week that, just asking about the Lakers' woes to LeBron, and he could have absolutely gone above and beyond to back Frank Vogel in a couple instances. And it's not like he dogged him, but like he didn't take advantage of opportunities to say it's not Frank Vogel's fault or anything else. So here we go again with, LeBron wanting to be coached. And, again, I just keep thinking back to that trade that wasn't, and you think about the depth you still could have had with that Kings deal that went through with, you could have Buddy Hield, and if they'd ponied up to have Alex Caruso is just defending the lights out, maybe even in 6-man contention with the Bulls. I mean, those are some key players that, when you're talking spreading the wealth a little bit in depth, and, instead of Russell Westbrook, you have, Buddy Hield and Caruso still, and you could have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope still. I mean, those are some great defenders in there for a team that is hurting, on the defensive side of things, especially on the wing with some of these aging bodies. So, I mean, I see some of that. Anthony Davis, 24 game, over 50% from the field, awful 19% from three. I mean, yes. I know that's not necessarily his game, but I mean, he's taking 2 a game here or there. And, again, they just look clunky. Again, it's still early. Who knows what come January, February, and then with buyouts and everything else. Obviously, they really don't have a whole lot to trade, but they just look clunky. And on Portland's side of things, just curious to see how that continues to unravel. I think earlier this week, it was announced that the Blazers have told the 76ers we're not moving Damian Lillard and not interested in moving Damian Lillard. I think that's one of the Ben Simmons destinations that keeps coming up, and they keep waiting on the shoe to drop of, all right, we're finally going to cave and and give you Dame or orchestrate something else to do that. But again, like you said, with, CJ going down with a serious ailment, collapsed lung, that's not good. Again, I was a little surprised. I was sad to see Larry Nance leave and head that way, before the season started, and thought he'd add some things to them defensively and playmaking wise, as a big who can handle real well and distribute. But those are my surprises in the West.
You brought up Frank Vogel, and do you think he's going to last the rest of the season? Obviously, the Lakers can turn this around. It's the NBA. You can get on a nice 6, 7, 8-game win streak. But what do you think? Do you think Vogel's the problem, or you just think the clunkiness of this team put together is the issue?
There's a phrase that, when you're kind of playing with house money and or you've fallen into luck with something that you're not supposed to have, it could be cars or houses or girls or guys, the inverse. But there's a phrase called out punting your coverage and just in over your head. And I mean, I wouldn't say in over your head. I mean, and Frank Vogel knows he's found money with LeBron. And Frank Vogel has had some good teams in the past before he even got to the Lakers, and the bubble was the bubble. But, again, I think there's some things schematically that just aren't putting the current talent in the best place, possible. Plus, you go from LeBron with Anthony Davis buying into, now you have Carmelo and now you have Russell. And these are guys that with tons of talent and tons of playoff experience and years of experience. And, what kind of buy-in are you getting from those guys when you need to stop defensively and you're down to, Carmelo Anthony being ISO'd and sought out in a switch or a pick and roll or on the wing? I mean, you're not going to get a lot of buy-in. So, I mean, it's not like he has the best cards in front of him. Is there someone else out there? Yeah, maybe. I mean, obviously, thinking back to the 2016 Cavs, we've seen a switch before, but I think part of it is got to be on the shoulders of Frank Vogel right now. Absolutely.
And with Portland, what do you do? Because, do you really try and ride this out? I mean, if Dame doesn't want to leave, Dame's not going to leave. But what do you do?
I mean, they're gonna have to play it out. They're in a really tough spot. I mean, it's in some regards, 11 wins, and 26 cracks at it. It maybe isn't the worst in the world, but again, the McCollum thing, they've just got to wait out, and they can't rush them back. And they still got some capable folks to win basketball games. But was Chauncey Phillips the right hire, Martin?
Right. At this point in time, I can't say that he is, to be honest. And I like Chauncey Phillips a lot, but I can't say he was the right hire as of right now.
I was sad to see Terry Stotts leave. I think Portland wanted to get past where they currently were, which was anywhere from a 5 to 8 seed, maybe a first round win team, and bounce in the second round. And, again, it's the phrase insanity is the repeated pursuit of the same things, expecting a different result. And, I respect they decided to move on in that regard, but I mean, I think they went with a flashy name necessarily in the X's and O's for a guy in his first, coaching stint. I think there are other folks out there they could have, tried to get to an extent, one of those being, the whole, Jason Kidd not getting out in front of that when he was available.
Anything else more out west before we go to the east?
Let's swing it east.
We got the Brooklyn Nets up top right now at 18-8. Then we have the Chicago Bulls, second in the East right now, 17-9. Evan, I don't know if you've had a chance to watch any Bulls games, but they are very fun to watch.
They absolutely are. I mean, we questioned some of the spending and some of the fits and stuff like that before the season started, and I mean they've been phenomenal to the tune of 17-9. They're pretty split down the middle, 8-4 at home, 9-5 on the road. Lonzo Ball has been a great addition. Like I said earlier about Alex Caruso's defending. The resurgence, Martin, of DeMar DeRozan, averaging 26 a game, almost 50% from the field, 33% from three, almost 90% from the foul line, to go with 5 boards and 4 assists a game. I mean, he and Zach LaVine have been a great 1-2 punch. And I mean, they are so exciting to watch.
Do you think the revival of DeMar DeRozan, obviously new scenery, and Lonzo Ball, because a lot of people were trying to write Lonzo off a couple of years ago, but I wasn't one of those people. You just get him in the right situation, and you surround him with people like LaVine and DeRozan, like they are playing very well. And you got a dog in Caruso who's willing to do the dirty work that other players aren't willing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sustainable. You know, I think it's I mean, just hats off to how the Bulls are playing right now. I mean, they've got enough, you know, solid depth, and you know they've been hit with some COVID outages and stuff right now. Have, you know, Ayo Dosunmu's been picking up a little bit more minutes, the rookie out of Illinois, to go with Lonzo Ball. You know, obviously they lost Patrick Williams early on, but I mean, I think they've got some good depth. You know, I wish he were shooting better, but I historically he will improve, because I mean 41% is, for a 7-footer, and Nikola Vucevic is not where he's been historically. So I mean, one would think that there's some improvements there. You know, I think maybe they've got some assets to dangle if they wanted to kind of push all the chips in the middle. You know, with maybe a Kobe White dangle out there, with maybe, you know, I don't know, a couple other things, some picks, something like that. I mean, they could be definitely buyers in the second half of the season, but I mean, for now they're playing really, really good, Martin. I mean, it's been fun to see.
Agreed. Number 3, you got the champs, the Milwaukee Bucks. Number 4, you got Miami Heat. Number 5, you got the Washington Wizards. Number 6, you have the Cleveland Cavaliers, who will be the ones we talk about at the end of the episode, where Evan can really talk about how well they are doing right now. 7, and then you got the play-in spots. You got Philadelphia at 7, Charlotte at 9, Atlanta at 9. Charlotte at 8, Atlanta at 9, and Boston at 10. So, Evan, what teams in the East are you surprised? I know we talked about the Bulls, are surprised by their success, and what teams at quarter of the season are you disappointed in right now?
I think there's we knew Brooklyn and Milwaukee were going to be up there. Miami kind of somewhat after a down year at 15-11, right there, kind of in the middle of the pack. You know, they've been good. Tyler Hero arguably is your 6th man of the year, the way he's been playing, finally having that kind of rebound, or that resurgence of sorts, averaging 20 a game to go with 5 boards, 3 assists. I've really liked that. I mean, again, they spent a lot of money in the offseason on facilitating the Kyle Lowry deal of sorts. And I mean, Kyle's not, you know, just throwing haymakers, and that's not Kyle's game. He's in there to, you know, take charges defensively, be aggressive, distribute the ball. And I mean, it's been a good combination for them. I mean, I think PJ Tucker's had a heck of a year, you know, as a late signee for them, you know, 7 points a game too. I mean, it's Miami's back where they're at. I don't know if that is incredibly surprising to me. Back to your original question, the Washington Wizards for sure are up there for me in terms of a surprising team. You know, I think, you know, getting like a third of the Lakers starters absolutely helped, you know, again, and the big signing of Spencer Dinwiddie too. We knew that guy was certainly capable. 13, 5-5 for Dinwiddie, Kuzma at 13 a game, Trez at 15 a game, and Beal doing Beal things. Beal scoring down a little bit even, you know, and they're still where they're at. I mean, there's a lot of teams in the middle of the pack right now. It's so tough. If you look at, you know, 4 to 10, I mean, we're really talking like 2.5, 3 games that separate. Well, I mean, really 2.5 games that separate the 4 seed from the 10 seed. I mean, there's a lot of really good teams in the East, and things will get clear as the season moves on and schedule moves on. And, you know, there'll be some teams that are maybe sitting, you know, 10, 12, something like that, maybe take a leap. You know, I think if I'm thinking about other successes again, we'll save the Cavs for the end. They are absolutely with their jumbo lineup, and they really haven't been blown out at all this season. I mean, they're in every contest despite losing Colin Sexton for the year. Just phenomenal defensively. The Sixers, I think, are a surprise to me. Obviously, we're still waiting on the Ben Simmons trade. I worry too, Martin, if I can drop in. They are logging way too many minutes on Joel Embiid right now, a quarter of the way through the year. I mean, give me like, I don't know, 60-year-old Dikembe or something, or Olajuwon, like for 3 minutes a game to spell this man. Like, surely that is worth the investment. So that's been a little surprising to me. The Hornets have been a good surprise, I think, too. I mean, Miles Bridges, probably my two leading candidates for most improved would be, I think right now, would be Miles Bridges and Darius Garland. Yeah. Miles Bridges has just been a great surprise for the Mr. Ball-led Hornets. And in terms of disappointments, I've got three. The Hawks, Celtics, and Knicks. I think the Pacers, we typically expect to be more competitive. Maybe they're in there too. But, I mean, again, it's not like these are devastating. They're just, 500 or a game or two below it. I mean, the Knicks, again, for the year they had last year, had the acquisition of Kemba, who's now banished to the shadow realm. I mean, that's still surprising to see. Alec Burks over him. That announcement was made, I think, 2-3 weeks ago. But I mean, they've been kind of a surprising letdown. Again, Boston obviously made the coaching change, and Ainge is out, but they got to make some moves and get some depth, or I think we talked a number of pods ago about there are a number of teams out there with great number twos, and if you look at them as just giant puzzles on each team that you're trying to solve, is Boston a team that could take a Jaylen Brown and do like if he's perfectly healthy, like some kind of McCollum swap, and maybe there's some other things involved. But I mean, there's tons of teams like the Celtics and the Trailblazers that have phenomenal 1-2 punches, but can never put anything around them. At what point do you split up, try to add depth, or just try to swap the parts? The Bulls somewhat did that a little bit with some pieces moving out, young assets they had, and look where they went. So that's surprising. The Hawks, again, they're 500, they're 13-13, but a team that went to the East Finals last year, one would think they'll make a move at some point, but those have been my surprises. Martin, what about you?
So Boston, yeah, I agree with Boston and Atlanta. And also mine is New York as well, because obviously the year that New York had last year, which shocked everyone, made the playoffs, won a game in the playoffs, obviously ended up losing to the Hawks. Seeing them down at 12-14, I expected them to be one of those top 4, 5, 6 seeds, just building off of what they did last year. Obviously, it's early, but I was kind of disappointed in them. And with Boston, sometimes I feel like they're almost the Portland Trailblazers of the East. Like, they have two dynamic players, and obviously the furthest we've seen Boston get was the Eastern Conference Finals in LeBron's last year in Cleveland. But since then, they really haven't gotten far since. So they're almost similar to the Trailblazers, where you might have to move one of them to get some more pieces and just build around one of them and have some good role players around them. So those are my two, really, Boston and New York. And you said something about Embiid, and I agree. They need to lay off some of the minutes for him, but it kind of sucks when you have a all-star player in Ben Simmons who doesn't want to play for you guys, and you still have him on your roster. So, Evan, when do you think anything will be done about Ben? Are they really going to ride this all the way out?
They may well. I mean, Daryl Morey is not rushed. I mean, you've got the stubbornness of Clutch meets arguably the most stubborn GM in the league, who both want to get $1.25 on the dollar, and that's not realistic. Yeah, I mean, I don't see an end to this anytime soon. I don't see anybody, especially with how competitive I think the season starts. I think that makes it worse. I mean, in terms of looking at the NBA landscape, like I said, I mean, 2.5 games separate 4 through 10 in the the East we just said.
Mhm.
Are any of those teams not thinking, hey, give us another couple weeks with our current stuff? Like, we don't need to gamble on anything now. So why would they? I don't see an end to it anytime soon.
That's 'cause he's just there. When I know he said they tried to talk about him coming back and he's doing some mental stuff, but I don't think he's going to come back. So, but I don't know what you would want in exchange for him. Obviously, you just said $1.25 on the dollar, but that situation's still pretty crazy. Even with that, Philly's still in the playoff hunt. But do you think Philly might contact Cleveland trying to take one of the 7-footers to give Embiid some rest?
Yeah, I just don't know what they're going to offer the Cavs right now. I mean, Cleveland's is definitely in a really good spot to, not even need to ride it out. I mean, maybe if there's a deal to be made around, if Kevin can come in and give them some spots at the 5, maybe kind of thing. Because I think the Cavs still want to do right by Kevin at some point. They know that, they're not a finals bound team. They're not an Eastern Conference Finals bound team. They're not probably not even a second round bound team if this trajectory keeps going how it's going. And Kevin doesn't factor into the long-term plans. But, aside from that, I think the Cavs are happy to stand pat. I mean, they're not looking to move any of these 7-footers that have been so good, especially on the defensive end.
True. Evan, one of the traditions of the NBA is Christmas Day games. Makes Christmas even more magical, where you get to open presents, depending what your family does, have a Christmas lunch or a Christmas dinner. But you have 5 NBA games on national television going between ESPN and ABC. The 5 games, you got the Hawks and the Knicks at 12 o'clock. You got Boston versus Milwaukee, 2:30. Golden State and Phoenix at 5.
It'll be a good one.
Brooklyn and the Lakers at 8, and then Dallas and Utah with the nightcap at 10:30. Evan, which game are you looking most excited for, and who do you have winning these games as of right now, time of recording?
Yeah, I think that's key as of right now, time of recording. I mean, there could be injuries in the next week. There could be guys, getting players back, that might affect things or swing things. In terms of excitement level, obviously, the top 2 teams in the West slayed against each other for, their second rematch, the Warriors Suns. That's going to be a great one in Phoenix at 5 o'clock. So usually at my house, that's we kind of snack throughout the day. Then it's an early 4 or 5 o'clock dinner. And that's on in the background. So that's what I'm looking for the most. In terms of who I've got again, as of today, I've got the Hawks over the Knicks, no matter how much the Knicks fans are screaming at Trae Young. I've got the Celtics I've got the Bucks defeating the Celtics in that matchup. I've got I'm going to take the Warriors again over the Suns. I assume by then we'll have some Klay Thompson action, and he'll make some waves in there. I'm going to take the Nets over the Lakers, and I'm going to take the Jazz over the Mavs.
Oh, good.
How about you?
Good. I'm going to take the Hawks too. I'm going to take the Bucks. I will go opposite on Golden State. I'm going to take the L7C Suns. Nets and Lakers. I want to take Brooklyn. I really do. I think they're going to win, but I feel like 8 o'clock ABC, which you can also see on ESPN. I feel like that's a LeBron gonna show out on Christmas and have a big game. So I will actually take the Lakers at the 8 o'clock game, and then I will take the Jazz at 10:30. And my favorite games on Christmas is typically that 2:30 to 5 o'clock range games. Those are typically my favorite, just from getting ready, like you said, snacking around and then having the dinner if you had your lunch already, and then before people disperse and you get home before the nightcap.
Martin, before we end on the Cavs, let's talk vaccine updates a little bit. So a couple interesting headlines. You and I texted earlier in the week about a New York Post report if I can say this without laughing throughout, Nets Kyrie Irving might be swayed to take plant-based COVID vaccine and works. Martin, reactions?
My thing with the Kyrie thing about this new thing he might take, new vaccine. My only thing is that if it's new, it's unproven, like the effectiveness and all of that. But there's these other vaccines that have been proven. There's 3 of them. So my thing is, what's the difference between this new plant one you want to take and the 3 that are already out that you are vehemently saying you don't want to take? That's why it makes no sense to me.
It continues to make no sense. So, I mean, a couple things. I'm going to give Kyrie and I the benefit of the doubt. It's a New York Post reporting this. According to a report Monday that sourced people close to him, says the article, Kyrie Irving could be swayed. This second paragraph, I think the article loses credibility. But it says Irving, who is vegan, I'm not sure what eating meat has to do with taking plant-based, unproven COVID-19 vaccine products. So a little clickbaity there, and trying to stir the pot, I think, with throwing in a random vegan reference. But I mean, who knows? I mean, I'll laugh incredibly if Kyrie is magic vaccinated because of some kind of herbal COVID-19 unproven remedy that might be in the works. So Kyrie Irving continues to make headlines without dribbling a basketball this season. Folks who also might not be dribbling a basketball this season across the border, we'll say, starting in January, the NBA announced or reiterated that unvaccinated players will be unable to travel to play in Toronto beginning January 15th. Martin, I think the most interesting thing for me, obviously we know Canada, has a much stronger approach and take on, like healthcare in general, which is great too. They've been doing some more lockdowns and more precautions, I think, than you're seeing or hearing about, at least stateside. But the thing that stands out to me the most, I think, is, again, talking about beginning January 15th, that players being able to travel. I think there's a lot of sleeper agents in the NBA, Martin. I think there's a lot of Aaron Rodgers folks out there who are, quote unquote, immunized, that, maybe the wool's been over eyes a little bit when they travel to San Francisco or, Brooklyn or something like that. And maybe they're, it's a DNP rest and they're on the sidelines in mass kind of thing now, or, maybe they haven't played those teams yet. Cause I think at least the Brooklyn instance, if you're unvaccinated, I can't remember if you could be on the court or what it was. You definitely can't play in Kyrie's case, but that's the interesting thing to me is I think we're going to look up, we're going to see some away games in Toronto, and the eyes of the NBA are going to be on the away team's bench looking to see who ain't on the bench. And we're going to find out. I mean, it's going to be kind of like, the Aaron Rodgers thing again. Then it's going to be like a deep state, like kind of oust hunt of trying to see, okay, well, hey, LeBron's not on the bench magically in Toronto. What does this mean? What are your thoughts, Martin?
Yeah, I agree. That's the biggest thing. Like when these games go to Toronto, you're going to see who's vaccinated, who's not, starting as of January 15th. So also with that, with the Toronto Raptors right now, I mean, if they get into the playoffs, that's a competitive advantage for them, potentially, yes, depending on who in the East is vaccinated, who isn't. That was one of my biggest things. Like, if you're playing the Raptors and if they somehow turn it up and get like a home field, a 4th, 5th seed, and they have home games there, and your top players aren't vaccinated, you can lose a playoff series. Or just like you said, in the East, there's so many teams that are like 2-3 games apart from being in the playing game, not being in the playing game. Like January 15th, where you're making those stretch runs to make the playoffs and you have to go to Toronto a couple of times, that's going to cost you positioning. If you have top play, even if you don't have top players, if half your team's not vaccinated, that's half your team. If someone fouls out, you're going to be playing with like 3-4 players. So from a competitive thing, I think it's really massive. And also from a vaccine thing, now we're going to see who's vaccinated, who's not. When it comes to the playoffs, who's going to have to sit out more if they get COVID in the playoffs. We have the new variant that's come to the United States, so you don't know how that's going to be. So it's very interesting, and I want to know if like owners and general managers are talking to their teams saying, hey, if you're thinking about getting the vaccine now's the thing, because this is going to be costing us potentially some games if we go to Toronto, and it could cost you guys some money. So
yeah, that was the big thing too, is yes, the fines associated with not. Interesting you said GMs. Is yesterday or Thursday night it was announced that the Raptors GM signed Ujiri, COVID. So I mean, again, it has been the narrative with all this. Just because people are, have the vaccine doesn't mean they're not getting COVID still, and
right.
Then have to fall into precautions and everything else. I mean, there's an inherent risk whenever you travel or you're playing another team or what have you. I'm just like when we go to a restaurant or get together with friends and everything else. So Martin, from one vaccine to another, I'm going to transition here. The Cavs have
go ahead.
Vaccine.
You've been waiting for this.
Go
ahead. I shared that funny
for an improved defense, for an efficient offense, and it's called a 3-7-footer lineup. We teased it earlier. Cleveland is 6th in the playoff picture.
If it started right now, they'd be in the playoffs.
They've lost their leading scorer, Colin Sexton, who averaged 24 a game last year. They lost him. He's gone for the year, and they're still doing this. They've had so many games go down to the wire that that haven't gone their way. It's been a long time since we've had competitive basketball in Cleveland. Where I felt like last year, especially towards the end of the year, the Cavs were in a competitive spot. Garland was starting to come out a little bit more, in terms of his performance and distribution abilities. But the Cavs would still get bounced, by 18 on this night or 20 on another night. Martin, they took care of the Bulls last week or the week before. In the stretch, let's see, of their wins, they surprisingly are not. They haven't been too great at home, but on the road they've been absolutely phenomenal. So the Cavs wins, they beat Atlanta, and then on a west trip, the awful West Coast road trip, they took out Denver. They took out the Clippers. They lost in back-to-back nights to the Lakers and the Suns by 10, 11 points early on. And then came back, beat Charlotte, Portland, Toronto, New York, lost to the Wizards only by 3 at the end of the game, beat up on the Pistons like everybody's beaten up, lost to the Celtics, beat the Celtics, had a tough stretch of Brooklyn, Golden State, Brooklyn, and Phoenix. Those are all losses. Again, that Phoenix one was some of the worst officiated basketball I've ever seen in my life. I think they should have won that one. Beat Orlando, Dallas, Miami, and Washington for a 4-game streak. Lost to in back-to-back to Utah and Milwaukee. And actually, I say last week, yes, Wednesday they beat the Bulls 115-92. Absolutely clubbed them. And then last night at Minnesota, clubbed those guys. It was never even close, 123-106. They host the Kings, who are also playing a back-to-back this evening. Martin, there's so many things to talk about here. You've got Evan Mobley, who is 4th in scoring in terms of rookies, behind Jalen Green, Scotty Barnes, and Cade Cunningham, some wings and guards that get some more shot opportunities. But Mobley is such a defensive force, man. I mean, if he doesn't finish top 5, top 6 in defensive player of the year, it's going to be an atrocity. I mean, he's averaging 2 blocks a game. He leads all rookies in rebounds a game. It's just amazing. I mean, some of the blocks he had last night too. I mean, he is a absolute game-changing stud. You know, I've heard everything from Evan Garnett to Slim Duncan with this young man. He by far is rookie of the year. You know, a number of podcasts I've been listening to, absolutely amazing. Darius Garland, in the absence of Colin Sexton, has been phenomenal too. 19 a game, 7.4 assists a game. That's 11th in the league in assists. Shooting 39% from three. I mean, he's, you know, Steph Curry got on him a little bit in the offseason, and he kind of in support of like, listen, man, you got to unleash that more. You've got such a pure stroke, what have you. His go-to shot is the three from the top of the arc, even, you know, 5-6 feet back. Ricky Rubio, heck of a pickup. My goodness gracious. Sorely what the Cavs have been missing. I don't think any of this works without Ricky Rubio and Darius Garland. I mean, we still need some wing depth. Isaac Okoro is still struggling shooting the ball, but those two guards, Martin, just, you know, engage in the offense, making sure the ball moves. Lauri Markkanen is that new acquisition, kind of, you know, really a true four playing a three. I mean, he's been holding his own in these long wingspan dudes, and have just been absolutely phenomenal in terms of blocking shots, closing out, you know, getting their hands in the passing lanes. Jetty Osman has been fantastic off the bench. I think a lot of that's because of Ricky Rubio. And Kevin Love, not pouting whatsoever, has been real efficient at 18 and 12 off the bench last night in that drubbing of the T-Wolves. Martin, Cleveland's back.
So, couple of things. Want to give you credit on. A long time ago, before the season even started, I think you talked more about Ricky Rubio signing than other outlets did. And obviously he's proven to be a great asset to the team. We talked when we did our draft one about Evan Mobley and what we're getting. I don't even think I don't, when the votes do come out at the end of the year, it should be a pretty wide gap between Evan Mobley and whoever is going to be second place for the rookie of the year, in my opinion, right now. Obviously, quarter of the season right now. But if the Cavs are still afloat without their best player, Colin Sexton, which you can make the case if he's their best player or not, but I think he is still currently. But, dude, watching them play, they play like it's kind of crazy. Like, I'm lost for words that they're the 6th seed right now in the Eastern Conference, above all those other teams that we're disappointed in. Garland's been really good. I really wish Sexton didn't get hurt, because I thought that was going to be like, all right, Sexton got hurt, packing in for next year. They're going to be like 17 and 65. The reason I said 17 and 65 is what we were before we got LeBron James, for those Cav aficionados out there. But that 7-foot lineup that we talked about at the beginning of the year is like, oh, is it going to work? Is it not? It's worked. It's worked. I couldn't be more happier. And for the people out there who don't want to watch the Cavs right now because you think it's going to collapse, and, you know, it very well could be. Injuries are a thing, all of that. I would say just tune into a Cavs game. I mean, we live in Ohio, so you should get them for free depending on your cable or streaming provider. Just watch them. They are not bad. They are a pretty good basketball team. Am I saying they're going to win a playoff series? No, it's going to depend on whatever they get matched with. But
Martin, I think they could win a playoff series. Like,
so right now they're the 6th seed. So they would play they play Milwaukee right now. They would
we ain't beating Milwaukee. So I mean, if there's too, like, depending on who we're at, like if the Hawks push back, like I'm not so sure we couldn't be competitive against a team like that. You know, the Heat, I'm not so sure we couldn't be competitive against a team like that. I
think they could beat Washington if they could.
Absolutely. We could beat Washington. I think we could beat, potentially we could beat Miami. You know, who knows with the 76ers. The one name I haven't mentioned yet, Martin, the for sure all-star on this team right now. So Cleveland's hosting the all-star game in the 75th anniversary of the league in February here in Cleveland.
Are you going?
I'm not going. The tickets are absurd. Like it's like to sit in the seat at the game, or, you know, Saturday night, stuff like that. We're talking like thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars, and thousands potentially. But I mean, what a great showcase for the city and the league's 75th anniversary. But the one name we haven't spoken about for sure an NBA All-Star is the $100 million man, Jared Allen. Guy has just been, I mean, one of the big 3 7-footers. But I mean, he's still so young. I just can't believe, I still can't believe Brooklyn just gave him up for nothing. They gave him up for nothing. I mean, this guy is, I mean, we've got a really good young core. I finally feel like we can say, hey, here are some 3 blue chippers that could be all-stars for sure. And Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, and Darius Garland. Like, that's the 3. And we're not even talking about, again, Colin Sexton. We're going to have to figure out something, again, they didn't come to terms on a rookie max extension before the season started. He was setting out to do a, prove him type year, and we didn't get there. Again, he's still under contract for 1 more year after this. So we'll see what comes of, his development. But I mean, he's all in, Cav, just hard work ethic, everything else on him too. So, I mean, you really got 4 guys there. I don't want to say, like, I think we still need, I mean, we absolutely need some wing depth for sure. So, I mean, like, I'm not at the stage where, like, hey, let's push the envelope a little bit and try to bring in a wing and dangle a 1st-round pick. Like, I don't think we're quite at that stage yet. But man, I mean, like the bench depth, everything else, I did not see, like you said, I did not see the 7-footer stuff working. I was like, what in the world are we doing? Again, I'm fearful of, if Garland were to miss any time or Rubio miss any amount of time, how's the ball moving? Because I mean, suddenly you've got, your backups to your guards are like nothing now. Like literally, like Jetty can play some 2. Lamar Stevens is really a 3. Dylan Windler's kind of been, pushed to the bench. So, I mean, then you're running, like, if that happens, you've got like dudes like Kevin Pangos, like a 26-year-old rookie coming back into the league. You've got RJ Nembhard, like, who's heard of him, and Denzel Valentine kind of running your guard spots. Like, that's when stuff could go really sour. So we got to stay healthy is the big thing for as long as we can. But I just did not see this coming, Martin. And even to, like, I'll be honest, like, before the season started, I am just so shocked at Evan Mobley. I'm shocked in a good way. I'm glad I was, like, wrong. I was, like, skeptical. I mean, I bought too much into summer league, and I'm like, this dude ain't involved. Like, he's getting, some dump off dunks and splitting the lane and stuff. But I mean, that's more of a tribute to, again, why you can't put stock in summer league. We didn't have guards, who could effectively get him the ball and split pick and rolls and utilize them well. But I mean, what we just said about Anthony Davis, I think there's been a lot of comparisons to Mobley and Anthony Davis, right, wrong, and different from rookie to rookie type thing. But I mean, Anthony Davis, what we say, shooting 19% from 3. Evan Mobley's hitting 33% of his threes, Martin.
Yes. Yeah. Whew.
Love this team. A must see, as you said.
Evan, when we come back, which will probably be all-star, definitely all-star weekend because it's in our state, and talking about that, or maybe MLK. When we come back next time, will Cleveland still be in playoff contention? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they're not. I don't think they're going to get past. I don't think they're going to move out of, for sure. Like, I think they're not. I mean, unless some catastrophic injuries happen to Garland and or Rubio, I think they can survive some other people missing. Like, if Markkanen missed some, you could have Love in there, like those kinds of things. You could have Jetty fill in your 3 to 5. But if you lose either of those 2 guards, with how well those 2 guards go is how well we go in terms of making the playoffs this year. They're not going to be worse than a 10 if that happens, which gets you in the play-in. I think they'll still be in contention by the time we come back in February. Again, unless another catastrophic injury occurs, I just don't see the way they're playing. I mean, we've got a quarter of the season, more than a quarter of the season sample size now, and I mean they've blown the doors off some good teams, and they have, I believe, top 3, if not the easiest strength of schedule left to go. I mean, the league started them on the awful West Coast swing. They've already knocked that out for the year, and they only lost to the Suns and Lakers. I think they'll be there.
You heard him. Next time we are back, Cavs still in prime positioning to make a playoff push. And you brought up Jared Allen. 17 points, 11 rebounds. Just wanted to throw that out there. Watch the Cavs. Just watch a game.
Just watch them.
Watch a game. That's all I'm saying on that. Evan, anything else you wanted to bring up before we close shop?
Nothing else basketball wise. As always, thanks for listening, folks. Hope wherever you find this, happy holidays to you and yours, wherever you celebrate, however you celebrate, and hope it's a recharging time to get some rest in, spend some time with loved ones, and I'm looking forward to a great 2022.
Yeah, I have nothing more to add on that. Just again, happy holidays, and whatever you celebrate during this holiday season. Even if you do not celebrate any holidays, like Evan said, use it as a time to be with family, friends, end the year on a good note, so that when we come back in 2022, you hear more positive Cavs talk. And with that being said, thank you everyone for listening to the L7C podcast. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy New Year. We'll be talking to you guys soon. Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.